This isn't what you were expecting, was it? Well, don't worry. We'll talk about the level that's currently in the game in a little bit. First, I wanted to show off a little bit of its history, because this is the oldest map in the game. The version you're currently looking at is version R-01, which is the first one that was ever released to the public. In fact, I think the version is still available out on railroot.bitrich.info. I haven't checked, and I downloaded this like a year ago at this rate, so it might not be, but it's worth checking out if you want to try this really antique version of the game. While antique does mean interesting, it doesn't exactly mean good. This version of the game has only one game mode and one map, and once you complete it, you can restart it, and that's it. There's not even an exit button to quit the game. You can't pause, the build and buy buttons don't work despite their inclusion, and everything just kinda looks worse for wear. It's honestly pretty cool to see how far we've come in all this time, you know? With that said, I would like to point out a few of the features that are lacking in the current game that I actually really like from this version. 1. Trains can change their reporting number. If you look at some of the small commuter trains that are like 3 cars in length that stop at the middle station, you'll notice that their numbers change if you pay close attention. This is actually a feature that was in the game until around December 2020, I want to say. Prior to coach yards, this is how two-part contracts would work. However, there was little incentive to use them at the time other than high monetary rewards. There was only one type of research, and this mechanic did kinda prove to be buggy. We'll talk about why it was buggy when we get to the current state of the level in-game. I certainly don't think it's the end of the world that this mechanic was scrapped, but I kind of miss it. Another mechanic that I enjoy, though admittedly one I don't think is necessary by any means, is the off-map destination markings. Liverpool, Manchester, Redmouth. It's a simple feature that adds a lot of character to a map. However, it adds no actual effect to gameplay, and I'm assuming that it was pretty buggy. By the time I started playing, this feature was long gone and nowhere to be seen. There is one more mechanic. I'm not actually going to point it out here. Some eagle-eyed viewers might be able to notice it. But it's a complex enough topic that I think if I really want to talk about it, I should save that for another video. After all, we're almost at the point in this video where we're going to start talking about the latest rendition of the level that is currently in-game. If you would like to see a separate video on shunting, let me know in the comment section down below and I'll try to get to that sometime soon. Iron Falls is actually my second attempt messing with the editor. My first attempt was a straight remake of the original level. You see, at the time, the level was actually still in-game under the title of Central. However, in practice, it was unbeatable due to a bug surrounding trains changing numbers in their central station. You see, the way the game handled a number change was simply by deleting the first train and immediately spawning in a new one with the new number. The reason this is a problem is because the new train would always have its consist spawn in facing left. This is probably because the train wasn't spawning from a sink, so it didn't know which direction was supposed to be quote-unquote forward, so it just defaulted to left. Now, there is actually a solution to this, which is to simply reverse the order of the consist in the text file so that the locomotive is at the back. However, there was a second critical bug. Trains that spawned in this way would instantly try and leave the station, even if they had a scheduled stop time for, say, 20 minutes. And guess what? Most of the trains that spawned in this way had to stop for an absurdly long time at the station they spawned in on. Because of this, not only were the trains limited to 30 kilometers an hour because they were going backwards, but they were also leaving like 10 to 20 minutes ahead of schedule. Oh, and some trains just naturally spawned in this way, like not even a number change. They just spawned in backwards because they messed up, especially around Iron Falls. At this point in time, timetable maps were very, very unpopular. Endless kinda was the thing to do. Personally, I had gotten a little bit tired of it and I wanted to try something different, so I tried playing the official timetable maps. At the time, there were only 7 total. 4 of them were unique concepts, and 3 of them were repeats, basically. The most competent and visually interesting of them all had to be Central, but it clearly had its fair share of flaws. Since everyone was so focused on Endless, instead of waiting for the developers at the time to fix it, I decided to just fix it myself. I learned the editor from scratch and proceeded to teach myself how to make entertaining levels at a time when no one dared to touch the editor. At first, I started off making an easy and a hard variant of most maps that I ever made. I think the reason I did that so much back then was because the first level I ever made was technically a copy, and so I never really got to do my thing with the map. So for Central, I decided to upgrade it, to make it a little harder, a little more complex, and really utilize all of its track layout. And that's the map you see in-game, right? Well, no, actually. The first version I made, while very similar to the one currently in-game, had less trains and a more generic track layout. There were no tunnels, no walls, and all the station platforms were default lengths. The level wasn't added to the game until around roughly 5 to 6 months after I first made it. In previous episodes, I've mentioned the giveaway in passing. This was an event a little bit before the game was released into early access on Steam. In it, maps would be gradually added to the game, and you would have to complete all of them in order to submit a chance to win a Steam key. In total, 205 people made various submissions to the contest, 69 were eligible for the Steam keys, and 2 won. However, before the giveaway finished, I was kind of struggling to figure out what the last map should be. Most of the maps I was working on explicitly for the game were either too easy or too hard. There really wasn't a nice middle ground. In desperation, I decided to look through the catalog of levels that I had built in the past and stumbled across this one. It was a great start, but visually it was missing something special, and it really irked me that it was at 22 trains rather than 25. Yes, I went out of my way to add 3 more trains, upping the total number of trains to 25 and the total score to 750. Was it worth the time? Probably not. I don't think it was an inherently bad addition to the level, however. In the end, this map has a kind of fascinating legacy. It was the first test map to prove the game worked, and later, the first experiment for me in level design. It's a unique challenge with its own identity, and honestly, one of the best looking maps in the game, if not the best. I guess when you have literal years to perfect a design, though, it makes sense that it would come out so well. If you would like to play this version for yourself, despite all its apparent flaws, I'll leave a link to the blog post where they uploaded this demo. It's more of a novelty than anything else, but hey, that's still fun, right? Anyways, I think that's all for this video. Enjoy the background gameplay, and I'll see you all in the next one. Cheers, folks.